Lieutenant Kate Morrison stood at the observation deck of Mars Colony Beta, watching the rusty landscape stretch endlessly toward the horizon. The artificial lights inside the dome cast a warm glow that contrasted sharply with the cold, dark Martian night outside. She took a sip from her coffee mug, enjoying the quiet of the early morning shift when most colonists were still asleep. The peace didn't last long. A soft beep from her wrist computer drew her attention. Another alert about unusual energy readings near Section 7. Third one this week. She set down her coffee and pulled up the colony's security feeds, her brown eyes scanning the data streams with practiced ease. "Lieutenant Morrison." A voice called from behind. She turned to see Officer Pete Duncan, one of the younger security personnel, walking quickly toward her. "We've got another strange reading from the environmental sensors. Different from the others." Kate nodded, already pulling up the new data. Something wasn't right. After 5 years of service on Mars, she had developed a good sense for the colony's normal patterns. These readings were too irregular, too purposeful to be equipment malfunctions. She walked briskly toward the security center, her boots making soft sounds on the metal floor. The colony's corridors were quiet at this hour, with only the essential person. Kate Morrison walked through the dimly lit corridor of Mars Colony Beta's storage section. The security cameras had picked up strange movements here 10 minutes ago. Her steps were quiet, practiced from years of training. The metal walls hummed with the soft sound of life support systems. A flash of movement caught her eye. Something dark skittered across the ceiling, moving too fast for normal colony maintenance robots. Kate raised her plasma pistol that didn't fire. She needed to be sure. "I know you're here," she said calmly. "Want to talk about it? Or are we going to do this the hard way?" A voice answered from the shadows, clicking and strange, but speaking perfect English. "Humans, always trying to talk first." A figure dropped from the ceiling, landing without a sound. It looked like a mix between a spider and a praying mantis, with smooth black armor covering its body. "I am Sixtol," the alien assassin said, moving on its many legs. "The Shadow Collective sends their regards. You should feel honored. I am their poison master." Kate kept her weapon ready but stayed relaxed. "Let me guess, you're here to kill me." "Indeed." The alien's mandibles clicked in what might have been amusement. "Though I must admit, you're quite calm for someone facing death." "Maybe because I'm not facing death," Kate replied. "You're not the first to try poisoning a human. We're pretty good at handling toxins." Sixtol moved faster than Kate could follow. She felt a sharp sting on her neck and quickly pulled out a tiny dart. Her vision began to blur, but she remained standing. "Interesting," the alien said, watching her. "That toxin should have killed you instantly. It's strong enough to kill 50 Centaurians." Kate felt sick to her stomach, but she smiled. "Here's something you should know about humans," she said, fighting the nausea. "We evolved eating all sorts of poisonous plants and animals. Our bodies learned to deal with toxins a long time ago." She tapped her communicator. "Security team to storage section 3. And send a medical team too. I might need some stomach medicine." The alien assassin moved to escape, but Kate had expected this. She fired her plasma pistol at the ceiling panels above, heating them instantly. Sixtol couldn't grip the hot metal and fell back to the floor. "Another thing about humans," Kate said, keeping her weapon trained on the alien despite feeling dizzy. "We're good at thinking ahead." Security officers burst into the room, led by Pete Duncan. They quickly surrounded the alien assassin, who had nowhere to run. "Take our guest to holding cell 3, Kate ordered, then stumbled slightly. "I need to visit Dr. Carter. Seems I've got a bad case of food poisoning." In the medical bay, Dr. Carter checked her vital signs. "Amazing," he said, looking at the readings. "Your liver is breaking down the toxin like it's nothing more than a spicy meal. Any other species would be dead." Kate lay on the medical bed, already feeling better as her body fought off the poison. "The Shadow Collective just learned something important about humans," she said. "We're harder to kill than they thought." In the holding cell, Zixtal sent a message to the Shadow Collective. First attempt failed. Target survived lethal dose of neurotoxin. Human biological resistance exceeds all known parameters. Advise immediate change of strategy. Dr. Carter gave Kate some medicine to help with the nausea. You think they'll try again? Oh, they'll definitely try again, Kate said, sitting up slowly. But now they know their poisons won't work. They'll have to get creative. She smiled. And that's exactly what I'm counting on. The game was changing. The Shadow Collective had failed their first attempt, but Kate knew they wouldn't give up easily. The question was, what would they try next, and would they learn from their mistake about underestimating humans? 3 days after the failed poisoning attempt, Kate Morrison was back on duty. The medical bay had cleared her for work, though Dr. Carter insisted she check in daily. She sat in the security office, reviewing footage of Zixtal's capture when her screen suddenly flickered. That's not good, she muttered, reaching for her communicator. Before she could call engineering, a high-pitched sound filled the room. It started soft but quickly grew louder, rising to an ear-splitting screech. Kate recognized it immediately, a sonic weapon. The Shadow Collective had sent their tech specialist, Vrinam. But they had made another mistake. Humans had evolved alongside thunderstorms, roaring predators, and all sorts of natural noise. Their ears could handle more than most species expected. She grabbed her emergency kit from under the desk, pulling out a pair of simple earplugs. They weren't fancy, just standard issue colony gear for working near loud machinery. But they were enough to make the sonic attack bearable. Nice try, she said, knowing the assassin was somewhere nearby controlling the sound. But we invented heavy metal music. You'll have to do better than that. The sonic assault stopped abruptly. In the sudden silence, Kate heard something else, a faint humming from the ventilation system that wasn't quite right. She smiled. The alien might be a tech genius, but they weren't used to working in human-built environments. Kate pulled up the colony's layout on her tablet. If she were an alien assassin trying to hide in the ventilation system, where would she go? The answer came quickly. A central air processing hub. It was the perfect spot to control the colony sound systems. She grabbed her plasma pistol and headed out. The corridors were empty. The sonic attack had sent most people to shelter in their quarters. As she walked, Kate noticed small devices attached to the walls every few meters. They looked like ordinary maintenance sensors, but she knew better. Pete, she whispered into her communicator, I need you to shut down power to Section C, Grid 4 through 7. Make it look like a system fault. A few moments later, the lights in the corridor ahead went dark. The humming from the ventilation system stopped. Kate heard something scramble in the darkness, something moving on too many legs. She switched on her wrist light, sweeping it across the corridor. The beam caught a glimpse of something metallic disappearing around a corner. The alien was running, but not toward the air processing hub. They were heading for the backup power station. Gotcha, Kate said softly. She took a different route, one that would lead her to the same place. Humans were great at predicting prey behavior. It was how they had survived as hunters for thousands of years. The backup power station's door was locked when she arrived, but the override code worked. Inside, she found a sight that made her stop in surprise. The alien tech specialist, Vrinam, looked almost beautiful in a strange way. Their body was covered in shimmering scales that seemed to change color, and delicate tentacles worked quickly over a makeshift control panel. Step away from the controls, Kate said firmly, her weapon raised. Vrinam turned, their large eyes widening in surprise. Impossible, they said, their voice melodic despite their shock. The sonic frequencies should have incapacitated you. Earth has some of the loudest animals in the galaxy, Kate explained. We're used to it. Now, hands, or whatever those are, where I can see them. The aliens slowly raised their tentacles. The Shadow Collective was wrong about humans, they said quietly. You are not just survivors. You are hunters. We're both, Kate replied, calling for backup. That's what makes us dangerous. We know how to be the predator and the prey. As the security team led Vrenam away, Kate picked up one of the sonic devices. She would make sure the colony's scientists studied it. After all, humans were good at learning from their enemies' mistakes. 2 assassination attempts had failed, but Kate knew the Shadow Collective wouldn't give up. They would try something else next time, something more dangerous. She needed to be ready. In their holding cell, Vrenam joined Sixtal. Both aliens watched their human guards with new respect and just a touch of fear. The message they sent to their guild was simple. Humans are more adaptable than expected. Exercise extreme caution. Kate Morrison couldn't sleep. For the past hour, she had felt like someone was watching her. The feeling wasn't new growing up on Earth. Humans had developed a strong sense for when they were being hunted. She sat up in her bed, scanning the dark room. "Lights," she commanded, but nothing happened. The room stayed dark. That's when she felt it. A slight pressure in her mind, like a gentle push against her thoughts. "Clever," she said into the darkness. "A psychic attack. Is that you, Mentis Prime?" A figure appeared in the corner of her room, tall and slim with pale, almost transparent skin. The alien's large head housed an oversized brain, and its black eyes seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it. "Your mind is different," Mentis Prime spoke, but its lips didn't move. The words appeared directly in Kate's thoughts. Most species fall quickly to psychic assault. Their minds break under the pressure. Kate smiled. "You should have studied human history. We've been dealing with fear since we first looked up at the stars and imagined what might be waiting in the dark." The alien's attack began in earnest then. Kate felt waves of terror wash over her mind. She saw her worst fears play out before her eyes. The colony's dome cracking, her friends dying, Earth burning. But something unexpected happened. Instead of breaking under the mental assault, Kate's mind fought back. Humans had evolved to process fear, to imagine worst-case scenarios and plan for them. It was how they had survived as both predator and prey. Each terrifying vision that Mentis Prime sent, Kate's mind accepted, analyzed, and adapted to. "Stop resisting," the alien commanded, frustration clear in its mental voice. "Your mind should not be able to handle this level of fear." "You don't understand humans very well," Kate replied, pushing herself to her feet. Her head hurt, but she stayed focused. "We live with fear every day. We write stories about our fears. We make movies about them. We turn them into entertainment." She took a step toward the alien, who actually backed away. "We imagine the worst things that could happen, not because we have to, but because it helps us prepare. It makes us stronger." Mentis Prime's attack changed tactics. Now Kate saw visions of loneliness, of being abandoned and forgotten. But again, her mind proved resistant. Humans were social creatures who had faced isolation before. They had learned to cope, to adapt, to survive. "Your species is chaos." Mentis Prime's mental voice showed signs of strain. "Your thoughts are not ordered. Your fears do not follow logical patterns. How do you live like this?" Kate felt the alien's grip on her mind weakening. "That chaos is our strength," she said. "We face our fears. We learn from them. And sometimes," she smiled, "sometimes we turn them against our enemies." She focused on her own thoughts, pushing them toward the alien. She showed Mentis Prime what fear meant to a human. Not just terror, but excitement. Not just danger, but challenge. Not just survival, but growth. The psychic assassin stumbled backward, overwhelmed by the complexity of human emotions. "Too much," it gasped, this time with its actual voice. "Too chaotic. Too human." Kate reached for her communicator, which had started working again as Mentis Prime's concentration broke. "Security to my quarters," she said calmly. "Our guest is ready for containment." When the security team arrived, they found the alien psychic huddled in the corner, its mind overwhelmed by its failed attempt to understand and break a human psyche. In the medical bay, Dr. Carter checked Kate's brain activity. "Remarkable," he said. "Your mind actually grew stronger during the attack, like a muscle adapting to exercise." Kate nodded. The Shadow Collective just learned another lesson about humans. Our minds are our greatest weapons. She looked at the medical readout. "I wonder what they'll try next." In the holding cells, Mentis Prime joined its fellow failed assassins. Its report to the Shadow Collective was brief but clear. "Human minds cannot be broken through fear. They have mastered it in ways we cannot comprehend." The warning came from Pete through Kate's communicator during her morning inspection of the colony's outer dome. "Lieutenant, we've got a problem. A big one." Kate looked through the thick glass at the red Martian landscape. "How big?" Her answer came in the form of a massive crash that shook the entire section. Through the dust that rose from the impact, she saw a figure emerge. It was huge, at least 9 feet tall, with muscles that would make a bodybuilder look small. Its gray skin looked as tough as armor, and its 4 arms carried weapons that seemed designed for one purpose: breaking things. "Kroll the Destroyer," Kate said quietly, recognizing the Shadow Collective's legendary warrior from security briefings. They're not being subtle anymore. The alien warrior spotted her through the dome and smiled, showing rows of sharp teeth. Then it pulled back one of its mighty arms and punched the dome wall. The special glass, designed to withstand Martian dust storms, cracked slightly. Kate quickly pressed the emergency alarm. "All personnel, evacuate Sector 8. This is not a drill." She started moving away from the dome, but not running. Running would just trigger the alien's chase instinct. Another punch made the cracks spread. Kate heard the safety systems kick in, preparing to seal off this section of the dome if it broke. She had about 2 minutes to get to the safety doors. The third punch broke through. Warning sirens blared as the air began to rush out. Kate felt the pull but kept her footing. Mars colony personnel trained for this kind of emergency every month. She made it through the safety doors just as they slid shut, sealing off the breach. "You run well, human," a deep voice said behind her. Kate turned to see Kroll standing there. Somehow, it had gotten inside before the doors closed. "But running will not save you." "Wasn't trying to save myself," Kate replied calmly, "just making sure everyone else was safe first." The alien laughed. "Noble, but foolish. I am the strongest warrior in the Shadow Collective. No one has ever survived combat with me." Kate took a defensive stance. "Let me guess, you've never fought a human before." Kroll attacked with amazing speed for its size. One of its huge fists swung at Kate's head, but she ducked under it. The alien was incredibly strong, but Kate noticed something. It was used to quick fights. Most species would be defeated by a single punch from those massive arms. But humans were different. They hadn't evolved to be the strongest or the fastest. They had evolved to keep going, to take hits and get back up, to outlast their opponents. The fight moved through the colony's corridors. Kroll's powerful attacks left dents in the walls, but Kate kept moving, kept dodging. She took a few hits, a glancing blow to her shoulder, a strike that caught her leg, but she didn't go down. "Why won't you fall?" Kroll growled in frustration after several minutes of fighting. The alien was breathing heavily now, its movements getting slower. "Because humans don't give up," Kate said, ignoring her own pain. "We evolved running down prey that could kill us with one kick. We learned to take hits and keep fighting." She saw what she had been waiting for, signs of fatigue in her opponent. Kroll's species was built for explosive power, not endurance. The alien had never needed to fight for more than a minute or two before. Kate moved in closer, using her smaller size to her advantage. She struck at weak points, joints, nerve clusters, places where even tough alien skin was more sensitive. Each hit was calculated, wearing down her larger opponent. The fight ended not with a dramatic knockout, but with exhaustion. Kroll, the mighty destroyer, simply couldn't keep up with human endurance. The alien fell to one knee, all 4 arms hanging heavy. "Impossible," Kroll gasped. "You are injured, bleeding." How are you still fighting? Kate stood straight despite her injuries. Because that's what humans do. We keep going. We adapt. We survive. The security team found them there. The massive alien warrior kneeling in defeat, and the human lieutenant standing guard, battered but unbroken. In the medical bay later, Dr. Carter treated Kate's injuries. Multiple bruises, 2 cracked ribs, sprained ankle. And you kept fighting. Kate nodded. Had to. Sometimes staying in the fight is more important than winning it quickly. The Shadow Collective received another message that day. Physical combat ineffective. Human endurance exceeds all known species. They do not stop. Kate Morrison sat in her office, looking at the data displayed on multiple screens. Her injuries from the fight with Cruel were healing well, but she had used her recovery time to think. Something about these assassination attempts didn't add up. Look at this pattern, she said to Lieutenant Sam Baker, who stood beside her desk. Sam was the colony's best data analyst, and Kate trusted his sharp mind. 4 different assassins, 4 different methods. But why target a security officer on Mars? Sam leaned closer to the screens. Maybe it's not about who you are, he said slowly. Maybe it's about what you represent. Kate pulled up more files. The Shadow Collective has been active for 10,000 years. They've never failed a contract until now. So why start with humans? They spent hours going through records, connecting dots that nobody had noticed before. The pieces started coming together, forming a picture that made Kate's blood run cold. There, Sam pointed to a diplomatic report. 6 months ago, the Harmonious Alignment voted against letting humans join their trading coalition. They said we were too unpredictable. Kate nodded. And look at this. Their member species all evolved on peaceful worlds. No major predators, no natural disasters, no survival challenges. She pulled up an Earth-nature documentary showing various predators. We must terrify them. Sam brought up another file. It gets worse. The alignment controls most of the galaxy's rare mineral trade. Earth's expansion into space threatens their control, Kate finished. They're not trying to kill me. They're trying to prove humans can be killed. She sat back, understanding flooding in. They want to show the galaxy that we're not as tough as everyone thinks. A message flashed on her screen. A warning from Earth Command. More colony attacks had been reported. Other human settlements had fought off assassination attempts too. Each attack had failed, but they kept coming. They don't understand us at all, Sam said, shaking his head. Every failed attempt just proves how strong we are. Kate stood up, wincing slightly as her healing ribs protested. We need to tell Command what we found. The Harmonious Alignment isn't just afraid of us. They're afraid of what we represent. Which is what? Sam asked. Change, Kate replied. We're living proof that hardship breeds strength. Our whole history shows that challenges make us better. She gestured to the screens showing Earth. We evolved on a world that tried to kill us every day, and it made us adaptable. We survived as both prey and predator, and it made us understand both sides of any fight. Sam looked worried. So what do? We can't exactly stop being human. No, Kate smiled, but we can show them why that's a good thing. She started typing a message to Earth Command. Humans don't just survive. We help others survive too. Maybe it's time the alignment learned that. As they worked, Kate thought about the assassins in their cells. Each one had learned something different about humans. Their biological resistance, their adaptability, their mental strength, their endurance. But none had learned the most important thing. Humans were at their best when protecting others. The evidence they gathered painted a clear picture. The Harmonious Alignment had hired the Shadow Collective not just to kill one human, but to prove humans could be killed. They had failed, and in failing, had only proved why humans were so remarkable. Send this to Command, Kate said, finishing her report. And add a note. We should offer to help the alignment. Show them that human strength isn't just about surviving. It's about helping others thrive. Sam nodded, understanding. The truth had emerged, but it wasn't the end. It was just the beginning of something new. The warning came at midnight Mars time. Security Chief Alan Martinez's voice crackled over the emergency channel. Multiple contacts approaching the colony. At least 6 Shadow Collective ships. Kate Morrison was already moving. "They're desperate now," she said to Sam Baker as they hurried to the control center. "They're throwing everything they have at us." Linda Powell, the communications officer, met them at the door. "I've been studying their transmissions," she said. "They're coordinating. This isn't just another assassination attempt. It's an all-out assault." Through the dome's windows, they could see the alien ships landing in the Martian dust. From them emerged a nightmare collection of assassins, some like insects, others like liquid metal, some barely visible at all. "They still don't get it," Kate said, watching the approach. "Everyone, remember your training. This is what humans do best. We work together." The colony's defenses activated, but these weren't just military defenses. Humans had learned long ago that survival meant using everything available. The colonists had prepared their home in uniquely human ways. The first wave of assassins hit a series of problems. The colony's outer doors, designed by humans who grew up reading about castle sieges, had multiple layers of protection. The ventilation system, rebuilt after Vrenam's attack, now had so many twists and turns that even the smallest alien couldn't navigate it. "They're trying to cut power," Sam reported, watching his screens. But the colony's power system, designed by humans who always planned for the worst, had backups for its backups. Linda's voice rose with excitement. "They're getting frustrated. Their communication patterns are breaking down." Kate smiled. This was another human trait, the ability to learn from every failure, every setback, every near miss. Each previous assassination attempt had taught them something, and they had adapted. The assassins' coordination started to fall apart. Used to working alone, they got in each other's way. One alien sonic weapon disrupted another's cloaking field. A psychic attack meant for the humans accidentally affected their fellow assassins. "Now," Kate commanded, "show them what humanity really means." The colonists moved as one. Security teams that had trained together for years. Engineers who could fix anything with whatever they had on hand. Medical staff ready to treat any injury. Even the hydroponics farmers played their part, using their knowledge of the garden's layout to trap infiltrators. A group of assassins broke through into the main corridor. They found Kate waiting, but not alone. Every human in that section stood with her, armed with makeshift weapons and years of watching action movies. "You see," Kate said to the stunned aliens, "humans never fight alone. We're pack animals. We protect our own." The battle that followed wasn't just about strength or skill. It was about humanity's greatest talent, working together. When one person tired, another stepped up. When someone fell back, others covered them. It wasn't perfect or graceful, but it was uniquely human. Hours later, it was over. The Shadow Collective's finest assassins sat in holding cells or their ships, defeated not by a single mighty warrior, but by an entire colony of humans being human. In the aftermath, Kate stood with Sam and Linda, watching the Martian sunrise through the dome's repaired windows. "Think they'll finally understand?" Sam asked. Kate nodded. "They have to. The Shadow Collective just learned the hardest lesson about humans. You can't break us because we're not alone. Every human carries the strength of their entire species with them." Linda checked her communications panel. "The harmonious alignment is calling. I think they want to talk." "Good," Kate smiled. "Maybe now we can show them that human strength isn't just about surviving attacks. It's about building something better together." As the sun rose over Mars, the message went out across the galaxy. The Shadow Collective had withdrawn a contract for the first time in 10,000 years. Their reason was simple. Humans are not worth the casualties. But Kate knew the truth. It wasn't that humans couldn't be killed. It was that humans, working together, couldn't be stopped. That was the real lesson, and now the whole galaxy knew it.